Denver, Colorado, a vibrant, fast-growing city known for its stunning mountain views, progressive culture, and dynamic economy, and now serves as a national hub for transportation, energy, and tech. In the 2024 presidential election, the Mile High City voted overwhelmingly for Democrat Kamala Harris, with over 80% of the vote. Across Colorado, Harris came out ahead, earning all 10 electoral votes with 54% support, while Donald Trump trailed at 43%. Housing affordability and homelessness emerged as defining motivators for Denver voters in 2024. Residents turned out in search of leaders with the courage to confront the city's housing crisis, demanding solutions that were both compassionate and accountable.
I mean, it's hell when you don't have a roof over your head and you're outside. I mean, it's terrible.
David Heitz is a Denver-based journalist who covers homelessness, mental health, addiction, and social justice issues, drawing in part on his own experience of having been unhoused for 2 years.
I can't even describe how bad it is. And so once I came indoors, I didn't have all this stimulation that was causing me to be extra paranoid, or I didn't feel threatened, or, that's kind of, I think, part of the housing is healthcare. I mean, you automatically start to heal when you become housed.
The Colorado Coalition for the Homeless prioritizes housing policies that expand affordable housing, protect vulnerable populations, and integrate supportive services.
The Coalition for the Homeless is focused on lasting solutions to homelessness. And so from our perspective, that means long-term affordable and supportive housing. We own and operate 23 residential properties, making up about 2,000 units of housing. Some of those are affordable. Well, all of them are affordable, but some of them are supportive. And then we're also a healthcare provider. And so we operate as a federally qualified health center, providing fully integrated healthcare. We do that through our clinic sites as well as through mobile units and street medicine teams. Essentially, what we believe is that housing is healthcare, and that your healthcare is absolutely dependent on your housing status. And so we want to provide access to affordable housing and affordable healthcare so that people can be successful in the other areas of their life.
For aldermen, the public debate frequently overlooks the structural issue at the heart of the crisis.
The things that makes me so frustrated in this space is that sometimes we talk about homelessness in the absence of talking about housing policy. When we know that housing is absolutely the solution to homelessness, even if that looks different for different populations, it is housing. And we need to be making significant investments in housing and ensuring that those investments are getting to the people who need it most. And so that's one of the things that we do a lot of advocacy around, both with the mayor's office and city council, as well as the state legislature, and even our representatives to the federal government. Because we know that without these investments, we just won't get the kind of housing that we need, and without housing, we'll never really be able to solve homelessness.
Denver's permanent supportive housing vouchers offer long-term rental aid and voluntary services for the unhoused and families with disabilities. But a recent HUD policy shift threatens major funding cuts, putting thousands at risk of losing their housing support.
Some of what the federal government is doing is really, really pernicious in that, yes, they're cutting housing vouchers. And of course, we've had far fewer vouchers than we've had people who qualify for vouchers for decades. Like, that's been an ongoing problem. Cutting them just means essentially pushing people into homelessness. I mean, that's what that is. Adding 2-year limitations, that gives the idea that we have some kind of functioning economy where if someone's in voucher housing for 2 years, suddenly then they can come out of that and make enough to pay for market rate housing in the Denver market. That's not reality. Market rate housing in Denver costs far more than minimum wage in Denver. So that's just not a realistic expectation. Maybe in some housing markets it would be, certainly not in any of our cities right now. I think the city needs to get into the business of owning and operating housing in the way that the federal government has traditionally done through housing authorities and things like that.
On the council, Parity has strengthened tenant protections, expanded eviction defense, and increased rental assistance. She is a strong supporter of the Community Economic Defense Project's legal and financial aid for people facing eviction.
Eviction is an attempt to collect a debt. In Colorado, if you get that thing on your door, that demand that says, pay us or leave, your landlord is really trying to get you to pay rent debt. I think the question that we're always asking is is putting someone into homelessness or threatening to put someone into homelessness the best way to collect the debt? Because the consequence is so severe, the impact is so severe, it is so expensive for the community once someone enters homelessness. And oftentimes these eviction notices are being put on doors for $500, $1,000, like money that the state could afford, the city could afford, that a nonprofit like us could pay. And so why take that all the way? I think our intervention is really focused on two things. One, it's providing counsel, so eviction legal defense. We can help you in the court process, but also financial assistance. Can we close that gap? And at CDP, we manage many of the public programs that council member Parity advocates for. So can we use Denver's Trua dollars, temporary rental and utility assistance, to pay that rental debt? Can we use the state SARA dollars, Colorado Emergency Rental Assistance, to pay that debt so that you can keep your house and stay out of homelessness?
When housing instability moves into the living room, the crisis slips out of view. Doubled-up homelessness occurs when people who can't afford their own place stay with friends or relatives, a fragile arrangement rarely captured in official counts.
We meet plenty of people who are doubling up, and while there's resources we can and try to connect them to, a lot of them simply aren't available to them by definition. They do not qualify. So you have that very literal barrier that's there.
Jacob Wesley, Director of Outreach and Engagement with the Coalition for the Homeless, describes how double-up living can trap people in unsafe situations.
I mean, yeah, so a challenge I can think of with somebody who is doubling up is, it was a client who was living with an extended family member, and she'd been living with that extended family member ever since, she lost her job. She experienced a trauma that really impacted her mental health, her ability to maintain a job. She qualified for disability payments, went through all that work, was staying with this extended family member, and unfortunately, the relationship became abusive. And really the struggle there was, she needed to keep a roof over her head to stay as safe as possible, to, still address the things that she needed to address, like engaging in case management and mental health care, and the stability housing affords you, right, to be able to do those things, and was really struggling with this abuse she was coming up against.
For Heights, the most unsettling part of the current moment is what he sees as a growing threat to the assistance that once helped him rebuild his life.
The Trump administration wants to limit housing vouchers for permanent supportive housing, which is what I am on. He wants to limit that to 2 years. I mean, obviously, it's called permanent supportive housing for a reason. You get it when they think that you are, that you're going to need help. Whether it's physical or mental, they think you're going to need help permanently. So you get one of these vouchers. And he wants to limit it to 2 years, which is just, again, they call it permanent supportive housing for a reason. So I've been here 5 years. So I do worry a little bit because I don't make enough money to, get a market rate apartment. Yeah, I'm worried about the Trump administration, and I will say, and I'm embarrassed to admit it, and why would I even admit it, but just so people know I'm objective, I voted for the man twice. I did not vote for him the third time. I voted for Kamala Harris. But there was a time when, I was all for Trump, but he has shown that he is, he's not making good decisions about homelessness. Every decision he has made, cutting Medicaid, cutting SNAP, limiting permanent supportive housing vouchers, where does he think these people are going to end up again? They're going to be back on the streets.
In Denver, Colorado, I'm Hugo Balta.